evening, everybody, and welcome to Gamecock Central Radio. Emerson Phillips joined by Radi Nabulsi from UGAsports.com for a preview of this Georgia-South Carolina game from the Georgia perspective. Radi, welcome in. Thanks for your time today. How you doing?
Doing fantastic. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, appreciate you joining us. You were on with us last year, so thanks for taking time out to join us again here on Gamecock Central Radio. Radi, take us through the offseason a little bit. The Gamecocks have never played for a national championship, so talk about what it was like for Georgia to come within a whisker of winning the national championship and, you know, what losing that game and dealing with that has been like this offseason.
Well, you know that there's that old refrain, better to have loved than lost and never to have loved it all. That's kind of the same situation that Georgia went through. You know, they hadn't won a title in 35 years, so actually getting back to the title game meant a lot. And it's funny, it was Georgia and Alabama in 2012 where Georgia came 5 yards short of winning that game. And they would have gone on to play Notre Dame for the title. And Alabama absolutely boat raced Notre Dame. That's back when they had Manti Te'o or whoever. And a lot of Georgia fans still back at that as their big regret. You know, if you'd been able to convert that last, you know, they were driving. You'd been able to take out Alabama then. You could have played for a title. Mark Richt would have had one. Who knows what would have happened then. But they know how close it was once before. And then, you know, they don't get back for years and years and years. And then you get a new coach. And finally, they get back to the title game, and they go to overtime. So it's as horrible as it was to have it pulled away from them at the very last second. You know, you go into overtime, you get a sack, and you're looking at second 26. You think you might have this thing in the bag, and then to have your heart stripped out. The Georgia fans were so excited just to be back in it, you know, to be at that level of play, that, you know, to play for all the marbles. So there is a slight hangover, but then, you know, a couple weeks, you know, it wasn't too long until Georgia brought in that recruiting class with 8 5-stars in it. Georgia's never signed more than 2 5-stars in the class, and then they had 8 in this last one. So the excitement of playing for a national title and then bringing in the nation's #1 recruiting class has them through the roof. They're just chomping at the bit to see how the season unfolds.
So a little bit of a hangover, certainly understandable, but not all doom and gloom. Seems like optimism is very high. Georgia ranked number 3 in the country, so hope for Georgia to get back to the national championship game again this year, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't want to say that, you know, anything's a given. They realized they lost the SEC's second all-time leading rusher, Nick Chubb. They lost Sony Michel, who was the 3rd leading rusher in the history of Georgia football, behind, you know, Herschel Walker and Nick Chubb. You lost Roquan Smith, the best linebacker in the country. You lost your starting left tackle in the first round of the draft. You know, you lost your 2 outside linebackers, you know, Lorenzo Carter and Davin Bellamy. You lost Aaron Davis and Dominic Sanders. I know a lot of South Carolina fans probably won't remember those names, but they could remember the fact that those guys were around forever. They had 98 starts between them in Georgia's secondary. So, you know, there's this optimism, and you think, yeah, Georgia played for the national title, they should go right back. No, look how many people they lost. It's yeah, they replaced them with better players. And I'm not saying that, you know, there's a better running back than Nick Chubb. I'm just saying that overall, the guys that have come in are more athletic than the guys that left, but they're vastly, vastly inexperienced. A lot of them are freshmen or redshirt freshmen. So, right now, yes, the expectation is to win the SEC East, play for the SEC title, and hopefully make it to the playoffs. You're ranked 3rd in the country. That means everyone else thinks you should too, but there's a lot of football to be played between now and then. Yeah,
good point. And a lot of losses offensively for Georgia. You mentioned some of the, you know, headline players from last year's team, but Georgia opens with a 45-0 win over Austin Peay, and Roddy, the offense really didn't miss a beat. Talk about the new faces there, and, you know, Jake Fromm. I think everybody in the SEC, particularly and nationwide, I got to believe, very impressed with Jake Fromm. He was very efficient on Saturday, 12 of 16 for 157 yards and 2 touchdowns, and then he gave way to Justin Fields, and a lot of optimism around him as well. A lot of excitement around Fields, the freshman quarterback. So talk about the Georgia offense. You know, it really looked like Georgia's offense didn't miss a beat on Saturday.
Yeah, it would look that way, but, I mean, they were playing Austin Peay, and let's call it what it is. Austin Peay is it's not a great football team. So Georgia they could have played better. I mean, there's no question about it. When it came time to rush the ball, Georgia didn't really do as much as they should. They didn't test downfield a whole lot. When it was an obvious pass blocking situation, they kind of they let in a little too much pressure. But to your point about the quarterbacks, yeah, the quarterbacks look good. Jake Fromm, you know, came in as a true freshman, 8 plays into last season, and took them to the national title. The guy behind him, Justin Fields, went 6 of 7 last week. I mean, he's and he can take off and run. He's Cam Newton reborn, if you will. I mean, the guy is a legitimate 5-star, and you got 2 very good talents there. A stable full of backs. I don't know if any are as good as Nick Chubb or Michelle, but they're very talented. But I guess if you want to talk about why they haven't missed a beat, is that as much as I'm kind of cracking on the offensive line, saying they could be better, they only lost one guy, Isaiah Wynn, that left tackle. Then the right tackle from last year, a true freshman, Andrew Thomas, moved over. He's looked pretty good. And basically they brought in another 5-star guy to play that right tackle spot. So that offensive line is just massive. You got a guy on that 6'7", 345 pounds playing next to a guy that's 6'6", 340 pounds. That right side of the line, although very young, is just massive. So, the good wide receivers. They probably should get Terry Dunn, number 2 receiver last year. So they should be able to score points. They're going to have to carry the defense. There's no question about that.
Emerson Phillips with Radi Nabulsi from UGASports.com previewing the Georgia game here on Gamecock Central Radio. Roddy, talk about Fields a little bit more and Fromm. Will Georgia play 2 quarterbacks all year? Seems like a good problem to have.
Yeah, I know a lot of people want to call it a quarterback controversy. I don't know that you can call it a controversy, and that's not me taking up for Georgia. It's just the fact that I believe it's Jake Fromm's team. I mean, you don't take the team away from the guy who led you to the title, it's going to be the title game. And he's also just beloved by the team. He's a leader. They rally around him. I mean, they obviously did when he was a freshman last year. He's only endeared himself to his teammates more so with his leadership over the summer. So it's Jake Fromm's team, but they also love Justin Fields. And this kid, I know a lot of people think of him as a running quarterback, and I hope, for Georgia's sake, I hope other teams continue to do that. And they only worry about the run because if they want to leave a spy back there and, bring somebody up to try to contain him, he'll pick them apart. He is a passer first, a runner second. So, it takes me back to, it reminds me of Connor Shaw. Everyone thought, yeah, he can run it, but that guy would just pick you apart if you did that. So, Justin Fields, again, he was one of the top-rated quarterbacks in the nation last year. His mentor is Cam Newton. That's kind of why I compare the two and their styles. He's learned a lot from Cam. And he recognizes defenses really quickly for a guy with such limited experience, and I expect them to play both of those guys in every game going forward. I would be stunned to see I can't see a scenario where they do not play Justin Fields. I mean, worst-case scenario, say the game's really tight against South Carolina, LSU, Auburn, Tennessee. When Georgia gets down to the red zone, Jim Chaney loves to go to that wild dog format. He loves to snap it straight to a running back or a wide receiver, and they do the little run-pass option. Why not snap it to a guy who can throw it as well? I mean, if you snap it to Terry Godwin, he's not going to throw the ball. So snap it to Justin Fields, and if the quarterback needs to keep it and run it, Justin can do that. He's 6'3", 225. I mean, if he decides to pound it in between the tackles or take it around the edge, it's not like you're running a small quarterback or anything like that.
Roddy, I saw a video on ESPN.com with Kirk Herbstreit today. We're recording on this Thursday. Game coming up on Saturday, 3:39 kickoff on CBS at Williams-Brice. Kirk Herbstreit said that he has been told that Justin Fields might be the best quarterback ever to come through Elite 11.
Yeah, we heard that from the Elite 11 guys too. We heard that from a lot of coaches who were recruiting Justin Fields, not at Georgia. Just like they said about Zamir White, the running back that got out of North Carolina who tore his ACL recently. They said that Justin Fields is a generational QB. They said the same thing about White being a generational running back. Justin Fields is one of the smartest kids I've met. He has ridiculous arm talent. He is evasive on the field. He's not just a runner who's going to knock you down. I've spoken to some Georgia players off the record, and they say, look, I'm trying to catch him. He's tough to get a hold of. And you wouldn't think a guy at 6'3", 225 could evade you like that, but he is hard to get a hold of, and that's why he's playing. I mean, in any other situation, Jake Fromm is your starter, and there's no questions asked. But when you bring in a guy as talented as Justin Fields, he is what it takes to be nipping at the heels of a guy like Fromm.
Georgia's loaded again this year, and we're previewing the South Carolina-Georgia game here on Gamecock Central Radio. Roddy, Will Muschamp talked about Georgia at length during his midweek press conference earlier this week, and he talked about Georgia's team speed. He said it was very evident on defense and even more evident on special teams.
Yeah, I mean, Georgia's loaded up with a bunch of track guys. You know, Kirby Smart is one of the strongest recruiters in the country. He was that way at Alabama, helped Alabama secure some of the best players out there. I had my guys go through and make a list of some of the track kids that Georgia had come up with. And I think we wound up with 27 guys who ran in the 10.8 or under. It was off the charts. I couldn't keep up with how many there were. They got Eric Stokes, who is a state record holder. They got Tyson Campbell, another state record holder. Guys who can run a 10.3 100-yard dash, 10.3 you saw Miko Hardman take one to the house for 59 yards. Then they got Demetrius Robertson, the other, five-star athlete from that 2016 class. Miko Hardman was the other one. They were number 1 and number 2 in the nation, both 5-stars, both athletes, and they're playing on the same offense now. Demetrius Robertson took 172 yards to the house the other day. So, even their linebackers, Meg McBride, can run a 10.63. So this is just a fast team. The question comes, can they tackle? Can they get open? Stuff like that. But if they make a mistake or they get into the open field, if you have a cornerback make a mistake, his closing speed, his correction speed is going to be fast. And if a wide receiver gets open out in the flats or something like that, he's going to run a long time before somebody brings him down.
Roddy, it seems like Kirby Smart and Will Muschamp have a good relationship and healthy respect for one another. They both talked about the other's program during the press conferences this week, and they had some very positive things to say about one another and about the two schools playing on Saturday. So first shots fired in the SEC East, Georgia, South Carolina, always a huge game from a South Carolina perspective. What's the perspective on South Carolina over in Athens?
A lot of Georgia fans are worried about this game. Some of them have a false sense of security because, that idea, well, hey, you played for the national championship last year. Kirby's got this thing rolling. They should be fine. But the folks who really pay attention, the folks who look past just the names on the back of the jerseys, understand that, going to Williams-Brice Stadium is always tough for Georgia. It's been very tough as of late. Georgia plays poorly there. The crowd's too loud. They get into it, especially playing South Carolina early in the season. South Carolina is usually very healthy at that point, and they come at Georgia, bar into all teeth and nails and no holds barred. And a lot of Georgia fans are very worried about this game because, Georgia's bringing in all these new players. Again, they're talented, but they're very inexperienced. And they're going up against a Will Muschamp coach team, and his teams don't make a lot of mistakes. So I think that the Georgia fans are, I don't want to say they're confident. They expect to win, but they are very, very nervous. That's the best way to put it because South Carolina presents one of the toughest teams on their schedule, and you're getting them in week 2. I think a lot of Georgia fans would be much happier to have them in week 7 or 8.
Yeah, I think Gamecock fans are happy to have this game back early in the schedule, first game in the SEC for both teams. So I think a lot of Gamecock fans are nervous too, Roddy. So are these the two best teams in the SEC East?
To me, there's no question. I mean, I'm not trying to take a shot at Tennessee or Florida or Kentucky or Missouri or like that. I mean, a lot of those other teams have great positional players. I think of Drew Lock over at Missouri. I think he's fantastic. There's some good players, in Florida and Tennessee, but top to bottom, I mean, you're looking at two of the best recruiters in the nation, and Will Muschamp and Kirby Smart. And that's always been one advantage Georgia seemed to have over South Carolina was they would be deeper. Top 22 players going head-to-head, it's a draw, but then towards the end of some of those games, Georgia would be able to put in some fresher faces and wear South Carolina down. Again, when they play South Carolina later in the season, if South Carolina has a key injury, then Georgia's chances will go up. But, when you're going top 22, these two teams, I think, are the cream of the crop in the SEC East. But right now, they're also top 44, top 66. They are that much better than the other teams in the SEC East. That's why, in my prediction, in my column this week, I think that the winner of this game wins the SEC East, in my opinion.
Very interesting. All right, good stuff today, Roddy. We appreciate your time. Radi Nabulsi, our guest. He's from UGAsports.com. That's our Rivals Network affiliate. Roddy, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Radi Nabulsi from UGAsports.com, and I'm Emerson Phillips, and this is Gamecock Central Radio. Don't forget, 3:39 kickoff, national TV game on CBS for the Gamecocks and the Dogs. Thanks for being with us.